You're watching Food on Prescription, and I'm joined now by Dr. Michael Dixon, Chair of the College of Medicine. Fantastic to see you again. Thank you for coming in and talking to me. So the programme, Food on Prescription, clearly you're advocating healthy eating to potentially reverse the effects of illness. Is that right?
Yes. I mean, we know that what we eat is the most important determinant of whether we fall ill or not. We know that 75% of heart disease, for instance, is preventable, 25% of cancer, and by the same reason, a lot of the increase in cancer and heart disease we're seeing is due to our poorer diet.
If we go back to basics then and we look at the quality of our food, are you suggesting then that the quality of our soil maybe even impacts the quality of our food and therefore our health?
Absolutely, and this is a story that's developing all the time. I mean, quite obviously, the soil has less essential trace elements now than it did have 40 or 50 years ago, so the food is less healthy in terms of nutritional value. And we know also, for instance, that insecticides get into the food chain and they have harmful effects. But much more profoundly, we know that plants have the same sort of biome as humans, a whole lot of beneficial fungi and bacteria. And by putting chemicals in the soil and by putting fertilizers and also things that kill the pesticides, we're killing off those bugs, and that reduces the biome. It changes the taste of our food, but it also changes the nutritional value. It also changes the resilience of the plants against disease, and that feeds back into our biome, whether we're an animal or whether we're a human being. So, enormous connection.
When you say that, it all makes sense. There's such an awareness now, isn't there, of that connection. There's so much information, and yet at the same time there's a huge rise in obesity and dietary related illnesses, and it kind of feels a bit counterintuitive. What's your explanation for that?
Well, oddly enough, I mean, obesity is partly a factor of all the stuff around us that's making us obese in the first place. I mean, going to any airport, it's very difficult to get anything that's reasonably healthy to buy at all. And we also know that the biome, again, is a big factor in obesity. We know that the bugs in our biome determine almost how fat we are. And if you have a very restricted diet, it becomes an obesogenic diet, however many calories you take in. And so, in terms of how you counter that, you've got to do, I think, almost three things. First of all, have some sort of national policy, as the government is having with fizzy drinks and the like. And then also you have to go to the individual, and social prescription, which the college has championed over many years, provides a link worker to link with a patient and understand their needs, hopes, challenges and whatever, and see if they can change their eating habits. And in my own practice, we've looked at, for instance, diabetes and obesity, and we've shown that doing that you can reverse diabetes, or people at risk of diabetes, in a third of cases, an enormous change. But more than that, more than the national, more than the personal, is the community. You've got to have the whole community changing our whole concept of what a norm is. And you've got to have, for instance, for childhood obesity, which is going just like that, and which is threatening to kill off the next generation earlier than our generation as the only factor in itself. For child obesity, you've got to have, and they've done this in Sanjoki in Finland, they've got to have the nurseries talking to the schools, talking to health, talking to social services, talking to planning, etc. There, they've managed, because of a whole community approach, to reduce childhood obesity by 50% in 5 years. It's enormous. So it can be done, but it's a massively complex thing to do. So
it's collective willpower that you're advocating, because we seem to have evolved to crave fatty and sweet foods.
Yes, we have, and the reason why we've done that is because they've been available and we've taken them on, and bit by bit we've sort of lessened our appreciation of good food. And of course, if you do actually step back a bit and start eating better food, your taste buds change, your feelings of satiety change, and gradually you can actually much more enjoy a smaller amount of a really good diet.
And yet, food is so psychologically linked, essentially, isn't it?
Yes.
Where some foods make you feel better and happier, but you're saying that you can override that with willpower.
You can, and I mean, comfort eating, is what we talk about, but it doesn't actually give you any comfort. It makes you very unhappy in the long run. It's a question of reversing those psychological processes, and you know, the question is how much you have to do that. Social prescription helps people, motivates them, educates them, but sometimes that's not enough. Sometimes you have to actually decondition them, you know. Sometimes things go deeper still into people's childhoods and background, and you really have to dig really quite deep to understand the reasons why they almost feel better sometimes feeling overweight than they would having to diet and lose weight.
Very complicated, isn't it?
Very.
Food is so connected to our physical health, but then also our mental well-being as well.
Oh, yes. I mean, we know that there are some foods that actually make us depressed, like, you know, processed meats. There's some that actually elevate our mood, like sort of fruit and vegetables. And the other thing we're finding out is that our biome not only determines things like how fat we are and how whether we have arthritis and things like that, but it also determines how heavy we are and what our mental state is. If we're depressed or whatever. And you know, goodness knows what the effects of a certain diet, or perhaps having antibiotics that kill off some of the bugs in those biome, have on our mental health. It's a sort of story that's unfolding, but there's no doubt that what we eat and our mental welfare are connected. And need I say, mental health and physical health are connected as well.
Dr. Michael Dixon, as ever, fascinating to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.